If y'all don't realize that MAGA is absolutely useless, I don't know what more to tell y'all. So apparently Big Marjorie, Big Greene, Big Taylor, Big Marjorie, she says that she wants Mike Johnson out of the speaker position. I don't understand. I don't understand what's wrong with them. The Freedom Caucus, MAGA, I swear to God, they've got to go. Like, bro, somebody get... Let me stop before these people come to my door talking about something. Remember when you said this?
If it's a warning, does that mean that you're actually not going to go through and force this vote?
No, I will. I'm just
There's nothing that could convince you to back off.
There's not a time limit on this. It doesn't have to be forced and throw the House into chaos. I don't want to put any of our members in a difficult place like we were for 3.5 weeks. We're going to continue our committee work. We're going to continue our investigations. There's a lot of good investigations going that have to be able to proceed. The American people deserve that. But I'm not saying that it won't happen in 2 weeks or it won't happen in a month or who knows when. But I am saying the clock has started. It's time for our conference to choose a new speaker.
Bro, what? Bruh. This is what I'm talking about. The inability to govern is what I'm talking about. They don't know how to run a country. They don't know how. They don't know how. Marjorie Taylor Greene, what are you doing in Washington? Does order, stability, a functioning government, do any of these things make sense to y'all? I see why y'all love Vladimir Putin so much. I see why y'all love these dictatorship-esque governments so goddamn much. Y'all want a government in which you could just swap people out the moment they do a little bit of something you don't like. Marjorie Taylor Greene, has it ever occurred to you that maybe a speaker has to make concessions? A speaker has to make deals. There are going to be things done by the speaker that aren't going to make you happy. You cannot sit there and threaten to get rid of the speaker every time a deal is signed that you don't like, a bill is signed that you don't like. Make this make sense. You sit there and say, well, I don't want to put pressure on my colleagues and I don't want to put them in a position to make them feel like... Marjorie, listen to me. We understand what you're trying to say. What you're saying is, Mike Johnson, I'm holding your speakership at gunpoint. I'm not necessarily going to pull the trigger now, but just so you know, I have a pistol at your head. Do what the fuck I say to do. I'll rouse up the whole Freedom Caucus and the Republican Party to get rid of you. I'll do it. Play with me is what you're doing. And you're trying to hide it under this guise of, I don't want to put pressure on everybody and I just want to make sure. Marjorie Taylor Greene, you're doing the exact same thing y'all did to McCarthy. Y'all are playing mobster governorship. You're trying to hold people's careers at gunpoint in order to have lunatic legislation passed, in order to have a government in which Democrats are unable to have their concerns taken care of in the House of Representatives. Man, this is unacceptable behavior. Absolutely unacceptable. So here's what she does. Here's what they're saying she did. Far-right Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene on Friday filed a motion to oust Speaker Mike Johnson. Doing so, just as the House voted to avoid a government shutdown. Now, this is what the House is trying to avoid, and we have Marjorie Taylor Greene threatening this man's career after they literally voted to avoid a government shutdown. She's mad and she wants to threaten his speakership. Does she not realize if Johnson is making deals with the Democrats, McCarthy is making deals with the Democrats, Marjorie Taylor Greene, has it ever occurred to you that maybe in governorship, concessions have to be made? Bipartisanship has to occur. Has any of this ever in your mind ever just crossed? Has it ever crossed your mind? The common factor here is you. Not McCarthy, not Johnson. It's you. You are the one who doesn't seem to get it. Johnson, Republican of Louisiana, I believe, has served as Speaker for 5 months, having taken over for Kevin McCarthy, who was ousted from the top job under a similar process. It was not immediately clear how the House would act on her motion, which requires just a majority vote to remove the Speaker. Greene, representative of Georgia, did not file the motion as privileged, which would force a vote within 2 legislative days, but instead as a regular motion, which could be referred to a committee where it would likely languish. Greene told reporters that her motion to vacate was more of a warning than a pink slip, saying she does not want to throw the House into chaos, like the 3.5 weeks that the chamber was without a speaker when McCarthy, her close ally, was ousted. Yes, you don't want to throw the House into chaos, which is why you're holding Johnson at proverbial gunpoint. Marjorie, we're all adults. We know what you're trying to do. Grow up, please. We understand you're trying to hold his career at gunpoint. You're not fooling anybody. You're not fooling your own colleagues, much less your enemies. She goes on to say, I'm not saying that it won't happen in 2 weeks or it won't happen in a month or who knows when. I don't know. I love Southern accents. But I am saying the clock has started. It's time for our conference to choose a new speaker. She says, Marjorie. She also said she has not discussed the motion with former President Donald Trump. I don't believe that. Marjorie strikes me as the biggest henchman of all time. Like, bruh, Marjorie Taylor Greene strikes me as the biggest goon. I don't think she would make a single move in that house without talking to Donald Trump. I just don't see it happening. Do you? I don't. Maybe I'm wrong. If she didn't speak to Trump, she's making herself a problem for Trump because she closely allies herself and clings to Trump's campaign, movement, everything. So, for her to be playing these kinds of games in association with Donald Trump and not speaking to him at the same time, I don't know how true this is, and if it is true, she needs to watch her back. If it isn't true, which is more likely because, Trump is being blamed for causing all sorts of chaos in Congress, she's probably covering up for him. If it isn't true that she, hasn't discussed it with Trump, it only, further proves that Trump is meddling in our affairs and causing chaos. But you know what? I think she's telling the truth. I don't think Donald Trump wants any of these speakers ousted. I'm pretty sure he said publicly not to oust McCarthy. But then again, you never know. This is the same guy who cleaned out the entire RNC and hired his daughter-in-law to run the entire show. I mean, you can't make this up. You can't make this. Look at this dork. Rep. Mike Johnson served as House Speaker since October. I would have never took this job. You got me up. I'm not taking this job. What, so I could have my career tanked by Marjorie Taylor Greene? And Matt Gaetz and friends? No. The House left for a 2-week recess Friday and won't consider the motion until after it returns. An official familiar with the process told NBC News the House will return to session April 9th. Rashad, a spokesman for Johnson, said the Speaker's focus is on governing. He will continue to push conservative legislation that secures our border, strengthens our national defense, and demonstrates how we'll grow our majority. Sure you will. Sure you will. Representative Matt Gaetz of Florida, who forced the vote to remove McCarthy as Speaker, told reporters Thursday that he doesn't support a motion to vacate the chair and evict Johnson. If we vacated the Speaker, we'd end up with a Democrat, Gaetz told reporters. So this man does not even care about the fact that him ejecting the Speaker is just a sign of bad governorship and bad governorship in and of itself. No. What's really a problem is if we vacated the speakership, we'd end up with a Democrat. That's the real problem. Bro, these folks, where do you look? These little kids, bro. When I vacated the last one, I made a promise to the country that we would not end up with a Democrat speaker. And I was right. I couldn't make that promise again. Asked how that could happen, Gaetz said we'd have Republicans cross over. I worry that we've got Republicans who would vote for Hakeem Jeffries at this point. I really do. I take no joy in saying that. But you can only vacate the speaker if you know that the party leadership won't change hands. I knew that with certainty last time. I don't know with certainty this time. Why am I illiterate? Gaetz' move against McCarthy led to the first time in U.S. history that a House Speaker was removed in the middle of a session. It sparked weeks of chaos in the thin Republican Party majority as they scrambled to find a replacement before settling on Johnson. Some moderate Democrats have previously said they would vote to save Johnson if someone attempted to oust him, not out of love for the current Speaker, but to avoid another fight over replacement that would bring all business in the House to a halt. Representative Tom Suozzi, or however you pronunciate this Italian shit, Democrat of New York, said he'd be among the Democratic votes for Johnson. This is a comedy routine. The idea that they're trying to kick the Speaker out for trying to keep the government open. It's absurd. So I'm fed up with it and I'll vote to keep him the Speaker, he said. And vulnerable Representative Susan Wild, Democrat of Pennsylvania, I believe, said she too was leaning strongly toward rescuing Johnson, though she hasn't made up her mind. I do not think that Speaker Johnson has been a model speaker or serves as a model for future speakers, Wild said in an interview outside the Capitol. Having said that, I really absolutely want to see us get work done. And the last thing in the world I want is another 2 or 3 week hiatus, because it's really hard for me to imagine who would be next in line. I can't imagine that the Democrats would let this motion to vacate be successful. So, Representative Mike Lawler of New York, Republican, said on Friday that he called several times for Democrats to join the majority of Republicans in saving Johnson. He said that Greene's motion would make chaos and create unnecessary distraction. Representative Tim Burkett of Tennessee, who voted to oust McCarthy, said Friday he wouldn't support a motion to remove Johnson. No, he's not lied to me, he said. Listen to these fucking retards. Like, bruh, it's all about me. I said this, I promised this, I that. What about governing? What about, like, passing bills? What about taking care of America's fiscal problems? Like, what the fuck is wrong with these little niggas, bro? What is wrong with these little niggas? Like, Marjorie Taylor Greene, you too old to be doing this. Real talk, like, you too grown. You're too grown, but it doesn't stop there. Marjorie Taylor Greene's behavior doesn't stop there. So apparently, Marjorie Taylor Greene voted against over $9.3 million in federal funding for her district. She's bragging about it anyway. On March 6th, Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene lit into her own party in searing terms as she voted against a package of bills to fund broad swaths of the federal government. Republicans have no excuse for having brought this minibus forward, the Georgia Republican said in a statement that day. Greene listed a litany of grievances, including the fact that the package's 6 bills weren't receiving their own votes, the level of government spending, and the fact that it funds the Department of Justice. So because the Department of Justice has problems with Trump, she's not going to fund it? What kind of corruption is that? What's wrong with this little girl? Somebody come get her up out of here, please, bro. I'm about tired of her, bro. I'm tired of her, bro. Like, I'm tired of her, bro. But that doesn't mean that there weren't things for Greene to celebrate in the bill. And within a week, she was doing just that. Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene is proud to announce that she has successfully secured federal funding for seven different projects for Northwest Georgia. Her office said in a March 11th release, saying the Congresswoman meticulously sought out the projects that received the funding. That included more than $3.8 million for an airport expansion in Floyd County, $1.5 million for a water treatment facility in Dade County, and several other projects totaling over $9.3 million. Greene had secured the projects as so-called earmarks in the minibus she railed against. Greene's office touted a local story about the airport funding in an email newsletter to her constituents on Tuesday morning. A spokesman for the Congresswoman did not immediately respond to BI's request for comment. The Congresswoman's maneuver is known to Democratic critics as vote no, take the dough. While Greene herself did secure the funding, one key purpose of earmarks, officially known as congressionally directed spending, is that they give individual lawmakers a stake in government funding legislation and increase the chances that they'll vote for the bill. In this case, Greene gets to have it both ways, voting against the broader bill while having something to brag about to her constituents back home. Altogether, 40 House Republicans have done the same thing this month. Oh my God. What is wrong with these little ass kids, bro? Like, how is this, like, bro, like, Republicans are, bro. That includes Laura, of course she caught up in bullshit. That includes Rep. Lauren Boebert, who voted against more than $20 million of her own earmarks as she faces a fight of her political life in Colorado. Bruh. Like, you can't make this up. You couldn't make this up if you tried. Like, this is pathetic, and it's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting to be given this much power and authority over the fate of the United States of America and the House of Representatives and engage in this kind of behavior over and over and over again with absolutely zero shame. It's sickening. It's absolutely sickening in every way possible. And yet we constantly have to put up with this nonsense. It pisses me off. It truly pisses me off that we as a nation are subject to characters like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who will sit there and obstruct bills and then take credit when they're passed and say, oh, well, you know, I secured this. Let me stop making fun of the Southern accent because I actually like it. I secured XYZ amount of money for Georgia. I secured XYZ amount of money for this and XYZ amount of money for that. Well, what about the money for other things that you tried to block? Would you think it's all about you? You think it's all about your accomplishments or the money you bring to your district or the money you bring to Georgia? It's not just about you. It's not just about Georgia. It's about the nation as a whole. It sickens me. It's sick. And this is what MAGAites do in office. They cause chaos. They're disgusting. They're like little rodents. They're like vermin. And we have to put up with them all year round. Republicans, conservatives, I call upon y'all, please, end these motherfuckers. Put a stop to this before it's too late. You know, y'all know I fuck with y'all heavy, but we gotta fight back against these demons, bro. Marjorie Taylor Greene, Matt Gaetz, all these good, like, but they gotta go. And what's crazy is the common denominator is Marjorie. Everyone else is saying, yeah, nah, we're not going to oust Johnson. It's time to just let it go. Let's move on. Let's see what happens. Marjorie is sitting there holding the man's career at gunpoint saying, I'm willing to get rid of you if you don't do exactly what I want you to do. And it's funny because Marjorie, I think, was supposed to be the interim House Speaker for a while. I wonder why why can't she just be Speaker? Why don't we just make her Speaker? Is that not possible? I'm pretty sure they could. But, you know, Marjorie doesn't really strike me as the kind of person who would put herself at that level of risk. She seems like the armchair quarterback kind of chick. So, we'll see what happens. Let me know what y'all think in the comment section below. Like, comment, subscribe. I'm out.